of societies and economies. The skills and expertise of management professionals contribute to industrial, technological, economic, and societal advancements on both local and global scales. Today's topic is about the significance of creativity and innovation in the fast-paced evolving landscape of business management sector, and how the B schools and management students of today need to know and work into become front runners of innovation. We'll now be inviting our distinguished speakers to talk about the exciting topic. Also, I would request our wonderful attendees to type in your question for our speakers in the chat box given, along with the name of the speaker it is addressed to. Now, I would introduce our eminent speakers for today. Ms. Pooja Goswami, with more than 16 plus years of experience in business strategy, HR leadership, OKRs, organizational design, and change management, Ms. Goswami is spearheading the HR team at Eco Financial Services as Chief of Staff and Head HR. She has been working here for more than 10 years in the leading Chief of Staff mandates across phases of scale-up and transformation and people strategy. An MBA graduate from Ford School of Management, Ms. Goswami has implemented agile work models using Zoho and Atlassian Suite and has contributed in increased transparency and turnaround efficiency by 30%. She has led 0 to 1 strategic projects across India in process planning and execution across GTM strategy, internal systems, and OKRs, and delivered 80% plus success rate in company-wide OKR adoption. She has a strong record in people analytics, culture building, process digitization, and performance-linked pay design. She has a firm belief that in life, people and spices have a lot in common. Users need to uncover the unique flavor each brings to the table. As a passionate gardener or a dynamic HR professional, whether she is growing her own vegetables or helping scale a startup, she approaches every opportunity with curiosity, intuition, and a bias for execution. With a deep belief in the power of human potential, she has learned that understanding people is the most effective way to drive business success. We welcome you to today's webinar, Pooja.
Thank you so much, Aradhana. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. Dr. Nitesh Bhatt. Dr. Bhatt is the Director and Dean of Institute of Management, Nirma University since April 2025 and a Professor of Information Management area. Since December 2021, he has been recognized as Nirma Limited Chair Professor in Management. He holds MBA Marketing, PhD, and e-governance degrees from ML Sukhadia University, India. He has completed a 4-month FDP from IIM Ahmedabad and an online internet governance capacity building program of Diplo Foundation, Malta in year 2006. He has more than 24 years of experience in academia and corporate training. In 1998, he was awarded the Best Faculty of NIT in North India, credited with 68 papers and cases in reputed journals, including 15 in ABDC and Scopus. He has co-edited 16 books. In 2006, he was invited to participate in the first Internet Governance Forum, meet jointly organized by United Nations, IGF Secretariat, and the government of Greece at Athens. He is the recipient of Devang Mehta Best Teacher of Information Technology Award in 2009. 4 of his students have been awarded PhD, and he has completed 4 research assignments of ISRO and Government of Kerala, including a major project with ISRO in the area of scientific research management. Currently, he is part of European Commission project, Knowledge Development for Circular Economy Transition. He has traveled to 14 countries for different initiatives. Since 2007, he is a member of the National Committee of E-Governance set up by Computer Society of India, CSI. He is a live member of CSI and Indian Society of Training and Development. He has conducted more than 300 MDPs in the area of technology and general management for leading organizations like ONGC, IOCL, Income Tax, SBI, Indian Air Force, Starlight, Reliance Energy, and many more. His inputs are regularly featured in IT magazines, DataQuest, Voice and Data, Computer Weekly, and HighStay. We welcome you to our webinar, sir. We are feeling very grateful that you have given us time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And we have Mekhla Sinha, the Executive Director of GHRDC, who will now be acting as a moderator for the discussion today. With this, I would request Mekhla to now take over and initiate the panel discussion. Over to you, Mekhla.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aradhana. Like you said, we are very honored and very excited to have such distinguished guests today representing the industry and the academia. And we're really excited to hear their insights, their journeys, their inputs, which will go a long way in inspiring the students who are watching this, the faculty, the B School fraternity, and of course, the industry or all the other allied stakeholders. So without any further ado, we'll start. So first of all, very, very warm greetings and warm welcome to both of you once again. This topic that we are today discussing about fostering creativity and innovation is again something which has been very, talked about in the B School space, not just now, but since a long, long time. And of course, the industry is accelerating change. There are a lot of changes happening at a very, very fast pace, as we all know, right? So obviously, the responsibility of business schools to kind of also stay at the same speed becomes even more important. And therefore, this is a topic which is always evergreen. Whenever we talk about fostering creativity and innovation, it is something which will always be relevant. So I'll start with my first question to Dr. Bhatt. Sir, the starting point of creativity and innovation when we talk about B schools is curriculum. That is the starting point, So my first question to you is on that particular topic. And I would just like to understand from you, how do you think these schools are working on their curriculum to foster creativity and innovation? And what are your views on this in terms of also guiding other B schools as to what should they do?
Okay. It's a good starting point. First of all, let me congratulate you for selecting a very, very pertinent topic, which is of interest not only to the students, but to the industry, to parents and society as a whole. Before starting, let me just take 30 seconds to differentiate between creativity and innovation, because at times students are confused about that. So when you talk about creativity, it's about having new ideas, new concepts, new framework, some novel thoughts. It's about human imagination, curiosity, ingenuity, so on and so forth. So it's about fertility of mind. It's a thought which goes implicitly in the minds of the people. However, when we talk about innovation, it's about the outcome or results. Okay, so creativity are the inputs, okay, through which this output comes into picture, right? Whether in the organization or academia, society, anywhere. So it's basically converting ideas into action or ideas into practice and so. And it happens, okay, this transformation comes as a result of leadership, processes, funding, structure, teamwork, multiple things, right? You can't say ki either creativity or innovation, both are required, right? Creativity without innovation, that means just thought process, no action. And innovation without creativity, that means no outcome, right? Or inefficient outcome or ineffective outcome. Now you asked the first question about the curriculum, and we can also talk about content part. So let me talk about my institution, Institute of Management, which is almost having 3 decades of existence, as we started in 1996. And I have spent almost 18 years in this institute. And regularly we have evolved in terms of our curriculum. And we have 2 opportunities in a year when we can introduce new courses or new programs or update our curriculum. And so I will talk about that a little later. But let me talk about some innovative courses which we started in few years. So let me talk about major specialization, let's say marketing and finance and operations and so. So few years ago, we started a course on return on marketing investment, right? Very innovative course, right? And industry demands it. In last few years, when we have seen the onset of Industry 4.0, and we have seen courses like AI-powered marketing, we have seen, of course, social marketing, digital marketing. In recent years, we have introduced a course like marketing analytics. I'm talking about marketing area. Similarly, if I talk about finance area, we have courses in the area of algorithmic trading, right? High frequency trading. We have courses like personal finance and personal taxation. Okay, robo advisories. Okay, similarly, AI enabled trading. So whenever there are contemporary technologies are there, or contemporary trends are there, academia, we should be open to these types of trends. We should listen to the industry. We should listen to the trend which are going on by reading and so, and we should introduce those in our curriculum and so. Other big trend which we see apart from Industry 4.0 or artificial intelligence is about climate change, sustainability, sustainable development goals, so on and so forth. So in finance area, we are having courses like or content in the area of sustainable finance, green bonds. So what happens? The decision making should not be only to enhance the economic value for the shareholders and so, but ultimately it should benefit the whole society, right? So it should be holistic in terms of decision making rather than just economic value. So I talked about two trends, one about the marketing related contemporary courses and finance related contemporary courses. Why I started with these two is that most of the students across the globe and in India also, they look for specialization in marketing and finance. Now, let me talk about some other innovations, right, which we have done in terms of courses. So I belong to digital transformation. Earlier, people used to call it as MIS or information systems and so. So 6-7 years ago, you see, Industry 4.0 is a term which was introduced in 2016 only. So initial 2-3 years, we started offering courses like AI or machine learning, right, Python, visualization in the workshop mode. So it used to be maybe 8 hours, 10 hours workshop, 4 hours workshops and so. And later on, when we saw that industry is highly demanding these types of competency from the students, and therefore we started minor specialization and later on major specialization in the area of digital transformation and analytics with courses like Python, R, AI, ML, visualization, social network analysis. And then we started seeing the boom of startups in India, right? So we introduced the courses in the area of fintech, blockchain, okay, and of course the payment gateways and now UPIs and related things like that, right? So across the specialization, whether it is marketing, finance, analytics, let me talk about operations. Of course, Six Sigma, Kaizen, TQM, these have been in existence from decades maybe, right? But now we are having the courses like Industry 4.0 and smart factories, right? Technologies and let's say geopolitics and supply chain management, right? We see a lot of disruptions happening and its impact on that. Similarly, in HR, we see HR analytics, right? Corporate social responsibility and sustainability development goals, right? Cross-cultural issues are very important because a lot of foreign multinational companies are going to various countries and transnational organizations, and therefore foreign nationals are getting jobs, right, in other places, and therefore courses like cross-cultural issues in human resource management and so. So these are some of the things I can talk about. A lot of courses like that across the functional area, but these are some of the examples. I'm sure this will benefit. And not only Nirma is spearheading and taking initiatives in these domains, but I'm sure the leading B schools across the globe and in India are taking the initiative, and it's need of the hours to continuously augment the curriculum.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. Very well summarized and shared because, like you said, this is not just relevant for Nirma, but for all other B schools who are also watching this because these webinars are meant to actually give insights to all. And I think the areas that you mentioned are pretty much, a sum up of all the major core areas that we speak about when we talk about business management education. Moving on to my next question to Ms. Goswami. So my second question is to you when, we talk about hiring space, you've been in the HR space for almost 2 decades. You've seen the industry evolve right from the time you passed out till what it is now. And there has been a sea change, when we talk about, creativity and innovation, what kind of, things are you looking at as far as these two aspects are concerned when you're hiring fresh MBA graduates? How do you really go about that process of finding some of these nuances? And also, if you can tell us about the kind of change that you've witnessed from what it used to be earlier from when you passed out, and what are the changes that you're seeing now? Maybe this will give students a very good view of, how the situation is evolving and what can they focus on.
Surely. Firstly, thank you so much, Meghla. I so wish when I graduated from my MBA school, we had similar sessions, similar webinars wherein parents, aspiring MBA aspirants and the ones who are passing out could have a forum wherein these two words of creativity and innovation, so beautifully explained by Dr. Bhatt, we could also understand it then. Because back in her time, if you were taking HR, it was all about you would be required. You have to be somebody who's very comfortable with writing a lot of emails, and you had to have some hobby, some interest. That's one thing I categorically remember in one of my placement interviews. We were asked on the MBA side back then. I think one thing I would say that has been the single biggest reason why we are in a space today that we can talk about creativity and innovation as being one of the very important business, not just business matrices but also career development related topics today. But back then it was all about you need to understand the business, you need to understand the numbers. If you are masters in finance, you're somebody who knows it all. If you're somebody in marketing, then you have to be okay with everybody who having an opinion on the color of the website, on the font of the text that goes out. If you're from design or HR, you have to be very comfortable with the fact that people will have an opinion and you will have to accept it up to a great extent. I don't know how many of the HR fraternity would agree to it, but kudos to the way the leaders of today, they have accepted these two terms as something much beyond it being a pastime for people. And that's how Echo approaches creativity and innovation. The first thing is that how comfortable am I in my skin? Because if we look at people who are creative, they just don't bother of how you would be perceived, how you would be judged for the kind of solution, for the kind of clothes you're wearing, or for the kind of answers you're giving, right? Or for that matter, accepting that you don't know a lot of things. So in Echo, that's one thing in since the time I joined, I've seen has stayed as is, and that is the focus of the founders and the team per se, in ensuring that we have to first identify and acknowledge ourselves with who we are. And only then topics like are we creative, are we innovative, can make sense to our managers, to our departments, or to the business, and also to our parents, right? Because we have to feel confident from the background we come in. Echo caters to to a segment which generally does not touch the lives of people like you and I, right? It is the segment which is helping us be on time in office. It is helping us ensure the office is running well. It is that segment which is ensuring that in case my car gets broken down, there's an auto wala who's willing to take me in an auto and ensure that I reach my office space. Echo caters to this segment of people who are otherwise who were considered to be migrants. Migrants, I would say, in terms of people not having enough opportunities and looking out for work in metros or nearest metros around their places of birth, or from where they belong to, right? But had Echo had the same mindset that this population has to just serve, has to just like, do the work with which they started their journey, I don't think we would not have had a lot of micro entrepreneurs. We would not have had a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And that's how, like, that's how the thought and the skill set of an individual being very comfortable in your skin gets evaluated. That's the number one thing. If you are, if anyone in the call and the ones who are listening to us, they feel that that there's an inhibition around the background that I come from, or from the fact that, like, I failed in my pilot aptitude battery test, or like, I failed in my 10th exam, or in my 7th English paper, right? If that is there, we have to first overcome that, because if we don't overcome that, it is going to haunt us for the rest of our life. So in Echo, the focus is like, the interaction is very informal, at least while it is very structured and templatized. But when somebody comes and talks to us, it's very informal. We make the person feel absolutely comfortable and not have that impression that they've walked into an office. The other thing is that, once people open up and then they start actually talking beyond their resumes, that's when they start talking about, like, what is it that they are very passionate about. And I would refer to Andre Agassi's book of Open, wherein, like, he book by the name of Open, where he mentions that discipline is a talent. We never talk about it. We always assume that when we talk of discipline, it is to do with, like, okay, I have to fall in line. Fall in line, the moment we say that, it seems like, you have to fall in line that has been defined by somebody else. But in Echo, that's not the case. You have to at least acknowledge that, what is the line that you've set for yourself. It could be, waking up in the morning and going to the gym. What is it that you're passionate about? That is what we are looking for. Rest everything else, whosoever is like, planning to take up MBA, or like wanting to do something which, like, they are being forced to take up MBA, but they don't want to do MBA. I would say that professional degrees definitely help you out, but don't lose out the person that you are, because that is extremely important. That is what, like, what has got us to something like a ChatGPT or NA10, right? Had all of those guys been thought of falling in line and, like, in doing what 10 others were doing, and not being comfortable with their failures or talking about failures, I think we would not be living in this place today, right? The second is the leaders in Echo, for like, for the background that they themselves come with. There's a lot of focus on, like, what kind of messaging do we pass on when somebody joins, be it an intern, be it a full-timer, or somebody who just walks in to meet, meet one of our colleagues. The intent is to ensure that everyone is welcome. And when I say everyone, I also mean everyone with their whatever skill set is welcome. So just to cite an example, we had a referenced person who was, like, looking for an internship. We said, okay, fine, good to go, and so we don't reject any intern. So they're like, we just ask them that what kind of internship they want to do, and we give them this space and the environment that's needed. So this intern, Mekla and Dr. Bhatt, what happened was, one thing we saw that, like, whatever task was being given to him, he would always go back to Abhinav, our co-founder, and also the one who drives all the, like, innovations in Echo. He would always come back to Abhinav and say that, Abhinav, give me more work. No matter how tough, difficult, easy the work was, he would either come and say that, like, I'm stuck here, tell me more about it. So, and you wouldn't believe today that individual. I would love to, Dianj. He's like, he's one of the brightest members of the engineering team, who's designing the brightest of the products for Echo, and also, like, spearheading a lot of things that the technology team is wanting to do. That's when, like, one starts to believe that while it's a lot to do with us being comfortable in our skin, being comfortable with the fact that, like, Echo might be a name that might not resonate with people like you and I, But there's a very serious mission with which we are running. The fact that we relate to that mission, the fact that we feel very comfortable talking to somebody who's clad in a dhoti, not very shabbily dressed, comes to our office and says, I want to talk to the co-founder. The co-founder goes and talk. The founder is willing to listen to them. I think that's that kind of environment is what sets Echo at a little different pedestal from the otherwise the mindset that students have in terms of the organization and discipline. I I don't know how much of that I have been able to answer, but I hope I've
Wonderfully shared, Pooja. I think, again, for our student speaker, and the other attendees who are attending it from other walks of life.
Mhm.
Again, when we talk about terms like creativity and innovation, they're hard. They can be a hard-hitting term. They can be heavy terms. They can be heavy concepts to understand. Until unless they go through the entire process of understanding it in these schools and of course in the industry. But I think what you've done is you've streamlined the answer in a very simplistic manner by saying that it is not rocket science. You have to be comfortable with who you are as an identity, number one. Number two, you've got to be very passionate about whatever you're doing and value that about yourself as a person. And
Yeah.
number three, like you said, that everything is important. Nothing is of a matter of failure. Everything is important. And I think some of these things that you've spoken about are very simple to understand, very important, and very simple for students to actually follow. So very, very insightful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And specifically this example of this intern that you talked about, I think again, asking a lot of questions, being curious,
Yeah.
ready to expand their knowledge. These are all very simple aspects of creativity and innovation, which are, I guess, the founding building blocks is what you're trying to say.
Yes, Meghla, and just to add on to the another story, it's whenever we walk into an office and we are asked about who we are, what's our background, we need to talk about ourselves. There are cases wherein people a lot of times the environment or the way we have been brought up, we feel little shy to talk about the fact that I come from a background where my father is an auto driver, right? But here in Echo, people feel extremely confident talking about it. And while I'm saying this, I'm getting goosebumps again because we had another member, an alumni of Echo. Uh, and we asked her that, are you comfortable of the background that you come from? She was like, absolutely. And she went on to talk about, the hardships that the family went through and how, they started on they bought an auto and her dad started working. So I asked her that, are you able to ride an auto? She was like, absolutely comfortable and confident talking about it. And Mona today and a lot of people around, they've understood the fact that we have to get very real. We have to get very real, and I also learn a lot when when you're interacting with the students and with people, that discipline is not just about I wake up early in the morning. It is as simple as anybody who calls, and if I miss their call, I call back. So this I learned yesterday and I was like, wow, I don't follow it. And I was like, one more metric to be added for us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Like I said, these are very, very simple aspects, but very foundational aspects of what you've spoken about in terms of skills and aptitude and knowledge that students can acquire and work on as far as creativity and innovation is concerned. My next question, again, to Dr. Bhatt. We spoke about the starting point of creativity and innovation in B schools with curriculum. The second step for us is how do faculties really disseminate this whole knowledge and conceptual aspect and framework to students. So my next question is actually based on this. How are faculties being trained or empowered to disseminate this and kind of get it through into the minds of students?
Right. So first of all, adding to what Ms. Pooja was mentioning in terms of mindset and creative culture, okay, where the leadership plays a very important role. Google comes to my mind. And year after year, Google is considered to be the most admired company. And we teach a case of Google in terms of their culture and the software aspects and so. And I was seeing that all the employees who join Google, they are assigned a core task. It may be, let's say, Gmail, or it may be Google Drive, cloud-based things, or of course, their core aspect of search engine and so. So they are supposed to devote their 70% time on that particular aspect. Okay, but over and above that 70% aspect, 20% of the time they can devote on anything which they are passionate about, which Ms. Pooja was mentioning about. 20% time. That means, let's say if I'm working for 8 hours in an organization every day, that means around 1.5 hours I'm free to pursue anything which I like. And that's how their innovative products in terms of maybe Google Maps or Google Glasses, or there are many products which we are aware of and we are using it every day. That's a result of that. So one, you have created a culture, you have created a policy related to that, you are incentivizing people, and you see, based on that, you see the result, a tangible outcome of that in form of these inventions and innovations. And so I'm just adding to what Ms. Pooja was mentioning. Coming to your question, how we train faculty, faculty members are already trained in terms of how to deliver, but I will talk about the training part in a while. But let me tell you, all B schools, specifically the top 50 or 100 institutions and so, they have a lot of innovative pedagogical techniques. So conventionally, Mekhlaji, you, myself, Aradhnaji, we are coming, we are in our 40s maybe, or let's say late 30s or so. So when we were in our school or college, right, there was a conventional mechanism of dissemination, that was lecture. A monotonous way, right? Old way, archaic way in which the instructions used to be delivered, right? And even the assessment was also monotonous. At least I remember for most of my academic career, before MBA, we used to have annual exams. That's it. Annual exam. No, even we did not have semester exams and so, right? So when you talk about the pedagogy as well as assessment, there was little innovation or no innovation unless faculty member himself or herself wanted to do something on his or her own. However, in management institutes everywhere, it's a full of blended pedagogy or action learning mechanism. So hard skills are important, but at the same time, soft skills are, I personally feel, are equally important or at times more important. So people join a company because of their IQ, intelligence quotient, but they rise in the organization because of their emotional quotient, social quotient, spiritual quotient, interpersonal skills, right? Risk-taking ability. How do you gel well with the people, as Ms. Pooja was also mentioning. So now how to inculcate that? So apart from lecture, which is an important tool, but all B schools, leading B schools, they resort to cases, which is a very, very important pedagogical tools pioneered by Harvards across the globe, and in India by IIMs and so. But one of the innovation with regard to the cases are video cases now. So Harvard, Richard Ivey, Darden, IIMs, they have also come up with video cases, right? So we play the video. It's like a modern day storytelling and so, right? So student can connect, modern youngsters can connect well with the video cases rather than 20-page, 15-page cases for which they don't have time even, or they are not inclined, right? We see that at home also. Or similarly, role plays, individual assignments, project, group assignments, psychometric tools, right? Many such things are there. But what we see in terms of innovation, I would like to highlight it a little bit, is that movies in last maybe specifically 2 to 3 decades and so, role of movies in terms of information dissemination or the learning dissemination has gone significantly up. And that's where movies, I'm talking about both Hollywood movies and Bollywood movies, both, right?
So storytelling.
So, storytelling, yeah. So the message can be delivered from that. So it can be The Godfather, it can be the social networking, which is about Facebook, right? It can be The Casino, it can be The Pursuit of Happiness, and number of movies are there. and students are so passionate about that. And similarly, if I talk about Bollywood movies, right, it can be Guru, which is talking about entrepreneurship and leadership, right? It can be Bhagwan, maybe, which is about financial planning or right, family management, right? So there are multiple movies. Let's say Corporate and Fashion, which is talking about corporate rivalry, individual ambitions, conflicts. Mission Mangal, which is relatively a recent movie. And who can forget, let's say, Lagan? A lot of B schools have come up with the case studies based on these movies. Chak De India. Chak De India is about, let's say, about team building. And Amir Khan's movie Tare Zameen Par, and now the new movie, a teaser has come, that is Sitare Zameen Par. So a person, like how he or she can galvanize a team. So Sitare Zameen Par, right, is about Divyang people, differently abled people, and how he makes them a team. I have just seen a teaser. The movie is yet to be launched, if I remember correctly. So there are multiple movies like that, which teaches team building, leadership, conflict management, decision making, right, entrepreneurship, even cyber crimes, project management, AI, right? So there are multiple things like that. And recent years, we have seen the use of Excel or R or Python, a lot of simulation-based tools from Mark Straight and many other companies, AR, VR, metaverse, and particularly in India after COVID, right? These pedagogical tools in schools and colleges have picked up significantly higher, and still we are continuing with that. A lot of hands-on sessions are being conducted. Now there is a new term called flipped classroom. Flipped classroom. I'm sure the students must have heard about that. So it can be, let's say, running a movie, or let's say running a video case. And rather than running that 30 minutes TED talk, right, or movie or 1 hour movie, we stop at, let's say, after 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and what lesson they can draw. If you were in place of Mr. Smith or Mr. Amit, what would you have done? Right? Or anything like that, right? And similarly, those who are from finance background, faculty member in our institute resort to live market screens, whether it is related to stock market trading, it's related to portfolio management, it's related to derivative trading, right? So these are the case. Other innovation which I can talk about in terms of dissemination is joint teaching. So management as a discipline itself is interdisciplinary. So there may be certain concepts. For example, let's say we talk about compensation management. Now, compensation management relates to HR, but there is a lot of finance angle attached to that, right? And maybe bit of marketing in terms of, let's say, sales force compensation and incentive or commissions and something like that. So if we are having certain cases or some sessions related to that, some team teaching happens. Similarly, in strategy, when somebody is talking about core competency, but when it's about balanced scorecard, which is amalgamation not only of strategy, but it has a lot of HR component in terms of learning. It has a financial components. So team teaching happens. And at Nirma University, because we are having multiple institutions, so at times we leverage our resources from other institutes too. So for example, when I teach cyber law, so my understanding of cyber law will be relatively limited compared to my counterpart in my Institute of Law. And similarly, when I talk about, let's say, data science, right, or algorithmic trading, so my finance people know about trading, but they know relatively lesser about the algorithm part. Or in data science, when I talk about the cloud part, we can talk about the application, but somebody from our AI or let's say electronics or those departments from our Institute of Technology. So these are some of the innovations which is taking place in the pedagogy. Now let me come to Mekhlaji, the faculty training related part, which is very important. So I will talk about my institute, how the faculty training takes place. So across the university, okay, every year, let's say in the beginning of academic year, sometimes in April or so, the faculty members join in each institute. So for 3 weeks, a common training is arranged for all the faculty members in terms of, let's say, the education, changing trends, technology, right, societal trends, and the creativity, innovations related aspects, right? We invite not only internal experts, but external experts also. And there also, apart from content, a lot of activity driven things happens, field visits kind of things, right? Some psychometric testing happens, some workshops, some role play. So they learn in a structured way about not only content, but how to innovatively engage the participants. And from last 8-10 years, we have adopted outcome-based education, right? So we disseminate these types of things also. So that's a one thing, okay, where during the induction itself, okay, in a structured way, people are taught. And very good thing about this particular training is that there are few faculty members from science, some from law, some from architecture, which you were discussing in the beginning. Some are from management, some are from commerce. So they learn from each other. Interdisciplinary idea, empathizing, understanding each one's perspective, pros and cons. So that's one part. After a few years, when faculty gain some stature, right, then research orientation programs takes place. Then at an individual institute level, so let me talk about my institute now, Institute of Management. Throughout the year, we come up with a faculty development program, a calendar of FDP, right? So sometimes some foreign faculty come, sometimes we invite some Indian experts, let's say from some IIMs or IITs of some leading B schools, right? It may be research related workshop, it may be pedagogical innovations, like I was talking about flipped classroom. Let me tell you honestly, I learned about flipped classroom as a concept hardly 6 years back. Or how we can utilize, let's say, TED Talks or something like that, right? Or let's say how movies can be intertwined with courses. So we thought that movies can be used only in OB or marketing and so. But later we learned that it can be used in finance also, it can be done with the strategy part also. So we learn from the best practices, even from our colleagues also. So FDP is important part. Other thing in terms of faculty training, which you are asking, any new faculty who joins, we have a concept of mentorship and peer review. So let's say if I join and I'm a relatively new faculty and you have spent, let's say, 10 years in the same institute or same department, you will act as a mentor to me. So it may start from a basic policy and products and programs of the institute to start with, but later on, pedagogy, student psyche, mindset, how to set question paper, how to make the session engaging, how to probe. In every best of the efforts we do, still in each academic setup, you will have some people who have high IQ, fast learners, and some people who are mediocre, some people who are slow learners. So how to disseminate so that everybody learns and we deliver the outcome. So those who are having insights and experience of the system, we learn from that. So that's where what happens, despite training, if I'm engaging my classes, sometimes once in a while in my course, let's say you will sit in my class. So if you are sitting in my class, you will observe me, how I'm delivering, how I'm disseminating content, right? How I'm talking to the student, how I'm asking questions, delivering cases. And later, once the class is over, during the class, you will not intervene. But once the class is over, you will provide me a structured feedback, which goes to me also, verbally as well as writing. It goes to institute, to director. And based on that, maybe intervention can be there further for training or feedback or something like that. So many such mechanisms are there. Of course, seminar, conferences, library thing. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir, very much, very much. And I think this is a great input for other B schools who are watching this, because a lot of B schools may struggle with some of these concepts. Of course, we talk about creativity and innovation in a very normal setting now, and it's considered to be a very important aspect of education nowadays compared to what it was maybe a couple of decades ago. But still, you know, one of the things that we believe in, that through these webinars, you're creating a benchmark for other B schools to also follow and understand what kind of practices they can do. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I really liked your example of Google, you know, where you said about how they make a very conscious effort to create that space in the routine of a normal employee, you know, that space to really think through things, and for that space to really give birth to creativity. And like you said, a lot of their products have probably emerged from that space aspect. So thank you so much for sharing that as well. Pooja, moving on to you. We talked about hiring of fresh graduates and what kind of skills do you look at and how do you feel about creativity and innovation in that aspect when you're hiring them. Now let's come to the next part, when they actually join. How aligned do you feel they are when they actually join a company or ECHO, for example, in terms of innovation? And also, if you could tell them what kind of steps can they do and take while they're studying right now, you know, to be more aligned with industry and with businesses when it comes to innovation in a corporate setting.
Sure, Meghla. little trickier question because I feel that, again, just last week we were meeting somebody very seasoned and came from the industry, and he said that, I really wonder that how come an organization like Echo, uh, which started way back in 2007, survived these many years. We are a very handful of we are a very small team of handful, maybe maximum 45 people who are on roll. And so it really, started the conversation there. And I'm so glad that, we are talking about this here, thanks to your question. I seriously feel that, one thing, and that's what I said to the gentleman then, is that I think one thing that has ensured that Echo stays relevant today is that we have changed with the time. And I feel that as much important it is, before we come to your question of how prepared are the graduates of today for the corporate setting, I think the question is for all of us in the corporate setting: how prepared are we to take the graduates who've grown up in the age of AI, chat GPT. They know it all. They know everything. They have they have a personal assistant guiding them on how to prepare an interview in Echo, what are the values of Echo, and how to align my answers to Echo, right? So that is food for thought for all of us, that how is the corporate setting preparing itself for this wave. Coming to your question, Mekla, I feel that the today's generation, which is stepping into the corporate sector, in terms of being armored, they have all the armor. They have everything that they need to turn the tables around, to steer the ship the way they want to. I just feel that there are certain skills which I've seen that when we were growing up were way more important for us, because of the setting of the family, or living in a sector kind of a setup in small town. We had a lot of focus on communication. We talked a lot. There was a lot of focus on how would you express yourself, how would you answer this, how are you going to explain this, right? And that was the age when internet was a paid service. You had to even for a printout, you had to go to one of the internet cafes and get the printout, right? So you had to talk a lot. Today I feel the problem is that they don't talk, they don't communicate. They we have mavericks sitting in this office and outside. I feel communication, which we regard as something that anyone can acquire, and as a skill which is very simple to gain. I think that we really need this lot to focus on communication. And when I say communication, I specifically mean articulation. I don't mean just talking in English. आई मीन आप कितने कंफर्टेबल हो आप अपनी बात हिंदी में बोलने में, असमीज में बोलने में, अपनी मदर टंग में बोलने में, किसी और लैंग्वेज में बोलने में, और अपने अपने पर्सपेक्टिव को समझाने में. हाउ कंफर्टेबल आर यू इन एक्सप्रेसिंग दैट आउट? I have struggled with that, and my boss has been thankfully very, very careful of pointing it out to me that I have not understood. I've not understood, but I've also realized that you don't get such bosses. I so wish you have. Everyone who's listening to me gets a boss like the boss I have. But having said that, I think communication is key, which I think we are not this generation is not very well prepared for. I also feel that with communication there comes storytelling, because there's so many jobs that people are doing from their comforts of their home. I think the ones who are going to win this race are the ones who are good storytellers. It could be something as simple as I'm I'm coming to the office, and I have to tell the interns about how to get started on their first day, right? I've learned and I've realized that unless I'm a good storyteller, it will be a difficult journey for me. And somebody will not see the value in what the organization is trying to create and what I'm trying to convey. So that is extremely important. Communication you need to have proper articulation and storytelling. I also feel that, we have so much of information. There is so much of information. There's information overload. We are very comfortable with, like, just having knowledge on the surface of things, right? We have InShorts, we have Twitter, X, and lot many other mediums of getting that information. But again, like, it's so important to have in-depth knowledge of that domain, whatever it is. It could be, for me, it could be gardening. For somebody else, it could be like, writing a code. For someone else, it could be knitting. It could be anything. But if we don't have comfort and we are not comfortable with going into the detail, I think that's where the challenge would lie. And I see that as a challenge today, because our attention span is low. So it gets, and we have so much of information around. We are so dependent on them that on, like, tools that we forget that we have to apply our own mind. That's where I feel that, like, in case somebody has that sincerity that, I need to go into the detail of things, I think that will like, be very helpful regardless of the setup that they go in for, be it a startup minded organization or a very big established organization. I also feel that like, the advantage of joining organizations like Echo for fresh graduates, regardless of, like, they being an MBA graduate or like, commerce graduate, or like, someone tech graduates. I think the fact that, like, there's lot of focus on being comfortable with ambiguity, because, like, a lot of things are changing around you. You are in fintech space, the changes, the space is evolving, the like, the enforcements and the, like, the changes from the RBIs are, like, RBI are so real that, one has to be on their toes all the time, a lot of times not realizing if the decision you're taking today will it lead to the plan that you've laid down, right? That benefit, I think, you get when you're working for a startup minded organization. Startup minded organization would be, like, an organization which is focusing on innovation, like Echo, which is focusing on, like, ensuring that even a process needs a relook, right? Even a discipline of, like, coming in the morning, having your daily stand up needs a relook, right? Those organizations prepare you for ambiguity. And, like, with things like we waking up one day and realizing that, like, one of our neighbors has just, like, acted wonky, and realizing that, like, a lot of things are have taken a back seat for us. They're, like, our men are at the borders and they're, like, fighting for us. Things are changing drastically here. Like, come to think of it, they're, like, five, six very large, like, economies, like, they're already at war, right? Ukraine, Russia, like, we recently had India, Pakistan. So I think things are changing very quickly. With that, you need to be comfortable living in ambiguous situations.
Right.
And that is something which, like, a lot of structured processes and structured mindsets, like, tend to, like, let us be little casual about it, which I think is very important. My last point is, because I was reading something in on Twitter today morning. It's about, like, being emotionally mature, right? We've had a lot of discussions around, like, work-life balance of, like, working these many hours, etc. I feel that a lot of times when organizations say that, you have to work 8 hours or 10 hours, they're not talking about clocking that time. They're talking about staying with that problem for that, like, for a good period of time, so that you can go into the detail without jumping to a solution, right? And that's again something that, like, the top management, the leaders here are very serious about that. They don't want you to come with a solution to the problem. They want you to stay with the problem. So stay with the problem, be comfortable in that, like, ambiguous situation, and like, home up your skills around communication, be articulate, be, like, try to learn to, like, be a good storyteller. And also, like, be emotionally aware of your emotions. It's okay to cry, it's okay to fail, it's okay to, like, to be in a situation which you feel is not in your hands. for that, you have to be emotionally mature. So I think those things are something that I have not seen a lot of youngsters come prepared with. I think we all should, parents, us, and even the students themselves, they need to pay heed to it. And also the hiring managers, take it easy on the kids. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think what you've shared is very relevant to the generation that we are working with today. You talked about communication in a very different light, something that we understand differently. But what you're talking about is how, today's generation is very immersed in their own world of technology, in their own space. And like you said, this is an era of over information. So they're surrounded with just too much of information, but probably not as much in-depth understanding of things as they should be. And I think these are very, very vital points, very simple and yet very, very foundational aspects of creativity and innovation, which they can very easily work on while they're still studying.
Right.
So I hope that the student community who's watching this really takes it back as a beautiful feedback, which can be surely implemented. And in fact, this is not just for students who are studying. In fact, for people who've just joined or who have been in the workspace for a little while and they're still struggling with various challenges of working in a corporate setting. I think all of these tips would be highly, highly useful to them. Thank you so much, Pooja. Thank you.
Mekhala ji, I just want,
yes,
I would like to take 1 or 2 minutes to add to what Ms. Pooja mentioned. She was talking about the ambiguity in the society and environment. So there is a term which is used very often these days, a jargon that is known as VUCA. VUCA, for the benefits of the students, I would like to mention. VUCA stands for volatility, U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, and A stands for ambiguity, which Ms. Pooja was mentioning about. So we are living in the VUCA world. So that's just one add-on from my side. Second thing, which I also said, and she was also emphasizing about storytelling. So I just missed to point out in terms of content-related innovation is that in last 4 or 5 years, we have added a course on visual storytelling also in our digital transformation and analytics. So storytelling is part of our Indian culture, but here I am talking about visual storytelling. So that's the second part. Third thing which our students should know, okay, too much of information was available even when Google was predominant in last 2.5 decades. But particularly in last 3-4 years, Ms. Pooja was mentioning about Gen AI, ChatGPT, and so. After that, right, there is an abundance of data, and we are talking about big data. Okay, in Industry 4.0, this is a term. Please refer to that big data, right, with multiple V's: velocity, volume, veracity, and so. And that's where ChatGPT is part of Gen AI. And there are many other platforms from US as well as from China. And now India has also come. Recently, I was reading Sarvam AI and so. So Gen AI, in fact, we are trying to teach these types of things. So there is a term called a data deluge. Too much of data, but data is one part. Too much of data, but whether there are insights, okay, what interpretation we can draw from that data, that's where creativity lies. Right? We can SPSS or SAS or any other tool, Midjourney or DALL-E. Okay, you just ask, give a prompt and create quickly. A poem can come, or a story can come, or image can come, or video can come. But that's where a creative life. Prompt engineering is not about typing. Prompt engineering about that creative thought process. And therefore, there are specific courses from Google or many other agencies about creative drafting of prompt. And that's where domain understanding is also required. So additional points which she was referring to. So I thought, let me just add to some of these type of course. And like I was talking about AI, but the contemporary development in this space are so high. In last 3-4 months, you see Gen AI as a concept has been launched 3 years back. OpenAI has been in existence from last 10 years. ChatGPT was launched almost 2.5-3 years back. But now we are talking about agentic AI or agentic workflows and so. So now the discourse has changed, not just on ChatGPT, but on agentic AI and these types of things. So as an academician, as an institute, as an industry, right, we all need to collaborate to understand this phenomena and to inculcate and imbibe into our curriculum so that we give our best to the student so that they can hit the ground running from day one itself.
Absolutely. And now that we are coming to the end of this webinar, I want to ask you one last question, Dr. Bhatt, and which can be your parting comment actually. And taking advantage of the fact that we have an industry on the webinar today. So what kind of support would you like to ask for from the industry as a B school to sort of foster creativity and innovation, so that even the industry is able to
Yes.
understand where can they come in and help these schools prepare accordingly?
Right. So it's a good question. I want Ms. Pooja also to answer later. You see, institutes are trying their hard to innovate in terms of their content and pedagogy, and we have empowered our faculty to resort to blended pedagogy in whichever way. It can be flipped classroom, it can be cases, it can be T group training, it can be psychometric tool. They are free. However, despite best of the effort in terms of the content and pedagogy, still the students may lack some competency, desired competency or proficiency. It may be related to IQ or EQ or anything like that. So industry also should open about these types of aspects and pass on their feedback. So whether at the Institute of Management, Nirma University, whenever we try to engage with industry on a regular basis, it may be during the placement drive, it may be through live project, it may be during the internship related phases, or whenever we conduct some MDPs or executive development programs, or at times we go to industry, right, in their offices to review the performance of our summer trainees or internships. And so we definitely showcase our curriculum related innovation, pedagogical innovation, process related innovation, assessment related innovation also. I would just like to take 30 seconds. So when we were studying, as I was mentioning, only there was year-end exams, but now we are having continuous evaluation even in the school, right? There are open book examination, which we used to consider as a cheating. Open book examination is a structured practice. So we discuss about these types of things to the industry, and we try to ascertain their feedback, right? Throughout the year, at least 50, 60 times we invite some leading CEOs or head HR or CIOs or chief marketing officer or chief CFOs or vice president of any companies or so, and they share their insights related to their peculiar practice, sectoral practices, industry practices, company policy, as Ms. Pooja was mentioning up. And that's how, even if we are lacking in terms of curriculum, which may not be abreast in all the dimensions, and so, or let's say our faculty members are lacking in certain competency, okay, that's how we try to enrich ourselves. But one thing which is required in India, somehow the Western world is much ahead compared to India. The trust between academia and industry, they are relatively more cohesive in terms of curriculum development and delivery. We try very hard as a policy. Our university has come up with a policy that in each course I'm saying, both core as well as elective courses and UG as well as PG and across the discipline, minimum 15 to 20% of the session should be delivered by industry professionals. So let's say I'm talking about cross-cultural issues in HR, and let's say some German MNCs are there, right? Or Japanese MNCs are there, or some Chinese companies or South Korean companies are there. If they talk about their perspective, right, that will definitely add value compared to what we are trying to do in this thing. So foundations can come. So that's where industry also should show openness. While we are inviting, sometimes the academicians can be called. So it can be through MDPs. The industry can show openness in terms of writing cases. That's very important. And that's where you see at times the leading these schools like, let's say, IIMs and so, or across the globe, let's say Harvard, when they write to industry, industries are much more open. But in our case, when we write to our own industries and so, maybe we will write to 4 or 5 companies and the openness will come from 2. And actually, when we'll go, the transparency in terms of data sharing will come only from 1. So that's where the challenge for the Indian students is that they need to study, because of this lack of good quality Indian cases, which are enshrined in the Indian culture and context, and so they are relatively devoid of those opportunities. Students will relate more to Amar rather than Anthony, and students can relate more to Gayatri rather than Gonsalves. Okay, the setting, okay, Kanpur is better than, let's say, California. Okay, I'm not sure saying that California is not important, but California with Kanpur. So that's where they should have the global aspiration, but they should be rooted in the Indian culture. So end-to-end collaboration is required between industry and academia in terms of curriculum design, structural design, other governance processes, cases, teaching, right, MDPs, and many more things which can be done. And we are also open for ideas from the industry.
Thank you. Thank you. Pooja, any thoughts?
As a first, sir, ECHO would definitely, like, in whatever way we could, we would definitely want to connect with your institute and see wherever we can be of help. We would surely want to do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. We'll collaborate.
Surely, sir.
I will connect the two of you, and thank you so much. I mean, this discussion could have easily gone ahead. We have a whole host of questions waiting to be asked to both of you, but due to lack of time, we will have to sadly end this webinar here. But this has been a very, very meaningful and enriching session, and I'm sure all the participants, attendees, student community who are watching this would fully agree with me on this. Very, very hard-hitting, simple, foundational tips that have been shared today, both by Dr. Bhatt and Ms. Goswami, which are very easy to implement, and they can all do it while they're studying, while they're practicing, while they're working. And thank you to both of you so much for sharing such amazing insights. I'll pass on to Aradhana for a vote of thanks before we close.
Thank you, Meghna.
Just 10 seconds before Aradhana ji takes over.
Yes, sir.
Students have a lot of technological tools available at their disposal. However, I have seen at length that they are using it as a shortcut, and the earlier practice of hard work have somewhere been compromised, right? So ChatGPT or DeepSeek or Grok or any other tools, these are really creative invention. They should enhance our creativity rather than destroy our creativity. And so we see, as a parents, we are struggling with these at our home, and as a faculty member in academic institution, we are struggling with that, right? So student definitely need to pay heed to that. It's a challenge, and it's a solution requires long-term things where policy, governance, regulation, academia, industry all need to come together.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what Pooja was also mentioning, where she said that there's a lot of information, there's a lot of knowledge, they know about everything, but when it comes to in-depth information, that's where they're lacking, and it's all surface level. So I think this very well aligns with what you're saying. Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
So Aradhana, over to you.
Yeah. This was a very fruitful and enriching discussion. On behalf of GHRDC's team, I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation for all the participants for taking out time to attend our webinar. Our sincere thanks to our panel of experts. Their presence have been invaluable and undoubtedly has made the webinar a great success. Thank you so much once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much once again. We look forward to more such collaborative insights, webinars, inputs with both of you. And we will be sharing the recording of this webinar with both of you shortly, and we'll also connect the two of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.